All right, for the recording, welcome back. We are ACI Course 6, Class 8. It's September 30th, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try to help fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. We're learning that that is possible. We're learning how it's possible. So I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And thinking of karma and emptiness, whatever you know about it. Grow that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy guide. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Buddha idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. To the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest. May we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest. May we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. All right, so review from last class. Sorry, my voice is so croaky today. The review from last class, we heard about that yogi who's a Buddha in Shakyamuni Buddha in a previous lifetime, not yet Shakyamuni Buddha, was having that terrible experience of being misunderstood, and so getting his, limbs cut off by an angry king. And his state of mind was at the level that he's understanding the emptiness of the 3 spheres as it's happening. Does that mean he's seeing emptiness directly as it's happening? No. But he understands the emptiness of the subject side, the object side, the interaction between as he's getting cut up. So your question on your quiz was, did he feel pain? And you know the answer, yes, he felt pain. He said he felt pain. So what good is knowing the emptiness of the 3 spheres if an unpleasant situation isn't changed by that? Because it doesn't change it. Knowing the emptiness of the 3 spheres in a negative situation does not make the negative situation any less negative. It doesn't make pain disappear. It doesn't make pleasure suddenly show up. What does it do? It means we understand clearly where that pain's really coming from, where that experience is coming from. Something that, in the yogi's case, the yogi had done to somebody else in some lifetime. Like he knew so clearly. I wager he knew it directly, that it was his seeds ripening. And so, yes, it was painful. And no, he didn't blame the king. Hard to even imagine. So then your second quiz was, why didn't he feel any hatred at that moment? So that helps us understand the power of knowing the emptiness of the three spheres, is it removes the blame factor of the other in the equation. And it's from that blame factor that our mental affliction arises. They're doing that to me. This hurts. I don't like it. I should stop them. I need to stop them. I need to do whatever I need to do to stop them. That's all ignorant understanding of the three spheres. So wisdom understanding of the three spheres, it doesn't stop the situation, but it does stop our blame. We're not blaming the king, we're blaming our own karma. And because we're blaming our own karma, we don't get angry with the king, right? At the level of the yogi, because he's already worked on his anger arising seeds, his hatred arising seeds. And he's at that level where he's so clearly understanding the emptiness of the three spheres that the whole thing is coming from his own seeds making the king do that to him. And the king's the one that is seeing himself do something towards another. So the king's the one planting new seeds that are going to be terrible, even more terrible than the experience the yogi's having, because the king's seeds are going to grow. So what arises in the yogi's heart, it isn't, the king, but I can't hurt him. What arises in the yogi's mind is, oh my gosh, poor king, right? Whack. Oh my gosh, poor king, whack. It's hard to imagine. But the greater, the deeper, the stronger our emptiness of the three spheres understanding as we're interacting, as we're having an experience, the less our blame of an other and the less mental affliction that arises. At first, it arises, and our understanding tells us, don't react the way you want to. That just perpetuates it. And it leads to that state of mind where it doesn't matter what's going on. Our wisdom kicks in instantly, and our heart follows suit with, oh my gosh, poor other person, because they're making such nasty seeds for themselves. We know we're burning it off. So the next question was, so describe the emptiness of an arhat's mind, because it's because of this emptiness of their mind that they can ripen these seeds for knowing the emptiness of the three spheres so strongly that the blame factor and so the mental affliction doesn't arise. Doesn't just arises and they won't repeat it, right? That's earlier, but just doesn't arise. So an arhat still hears their own mind, right? Is aware of their awareness, being aware of other factors. Here we're mainly talking about awareness of our thoughts, but mind is much more than that, of course. So arhat has awareness of things that are organized into thought. And they understand the emptiness of the three spheres of that process so clearly that they are aware that their mind is taking information and ripening it into aware of that thought. And because they have worked so hard at not blaming and so not having mental afflictions and so not responding in an ignorant way to their experiences of life, that now they have no seeds in their mind to ripen, taking information and making a thought that can upset their state of mind, taking information and making a thought that is a negative thought, an upsetting thought. Their mind is as empty as anything else. And so it's forced by its own seeds to see things wrongly and to react badly for those who don't understand the emptiness of the three spheres. When we have the emptiness of the three spheres as realizations, as the yogi did, then whatever seeds from past upset states of mind ripen and don't get replanted. So sooner or later, we reach the place where there's no more seeds to ripen, having a thought that could upset our state of mind. We would call that nirvana or eighth bodhisattva bhumi. It burned off all our seeds for mental afflictions, all our mental afflictions and seeds for more. Because of the emptiness of our mind, we can create that. Okay. And once we get there, it will be permanent. Once all your seeds for mental afflictions and seeds for them are gone, you don't plant more. Never another force to perceive something in a way that upsets our state of mind. Okay. Okay. So starting class 8 is about Buddha paradise, emptiness and Buddha paradise. So we've learned that having the direct perception makes us Arya, superior to how we've ever been before. But we still experience things as their identities in them, from them. We're still seeing things as self-existent, but now we no longer believe it, which means we're not replanting those ignorant seeds. Then last week we talked about how we use that new wisdom to change our habitual behaviors, and how that diligence in that practice will take us along to arhatship or Buddhahood, depending on our goal. And so this class is about what is it to reach our paradise? What is it to reach Buddhahood? The scriptures say we can hear this process described. And if we're not Arya yet, we'll think we understand something about it, but scriptures say we're not even close. But it doesn't mean don't bother to try to imagine Buddha paradise and reaching it. It means recognize that whatever we're imagining, it's way better than that. Like this or something better, right? We'll limit ourselves if we design our Buddha paradise and say it's going to be exactly like that. So like, why bother to talk about it if we can't get it right? You know, there's other ways in which we can't get it right as well. And as I was thinking about that question, it's like the reason we talk about it is because then we all get a drachi of it. We get a mental image of something we've only heard about. And to have a drachi of something is better than having no chi of something at all, or a completely wrong chi of something. And then what we want to do is be able to take that drachi and make it, not it, but make a dunchi ripen. So do you remember dunchis and drachis? Drachis is a mental image that comes up about from something that we've only just heard about. So we're planting drachis in this class, drachis for Buddha paradise. Think of it as your own Buddha paradise. And how would we make a drachi? How would we make a dunchi from a drachi? And for instance, if I've never seen the Eiffel Tower, but I've heard about it, right? I have a drachi of Eiffel Tower, but I make a dunchi of Eiffel Tower by going there and looking at it. It's like, oh, now I've experienced it before. And now when I think of it again, my mental image of Eiffel Tower now is a dunchi, not a drachi, right? It's from personal experience. So, we all have lots of ways that we've helped somebody. It's not quite correct, but turn a drachi into a dunchi. If there's been anybody that who's wanted to, I don't know, they've never been to see snow, and you took them to see snow, you help them plant a dunchi of their mind. So it's like another thing to put into the rejoiceables list. Actually, I'm keeping a rejoiceables list. Let me write that one down. For our rejoicing festival on December 17th. So, okay. So next in the sutra, Buddha says something like, Subhuti, if you ask that bodhisattva what they're doing, and they say, oh, I'm creating my Buddha paradise, that bodhisattva would not be speaking true. And it seems kind of disrespectful to the poor bodhisattva. Like the bodhisattva can't get it right. That so it's the bodhisattva is not speaking truly from a couple of different aspects. So if that bodhisattva is not Arya yet, then there is a part of their mind that hears their answer, I'm creating my Buddha paradise, and is holding the self, the what they're doing, and the Buddha paradise they're referring to as having some kind of natures of their own. And so there has to be an aspect of the imprint that they're making at that time that believes they're going to have to hire a contractor and get their crystal palace built by somebody. So they're misbelieving, they're believing self-existently as they're saying the words, I'm growing my Buddha paradise, believing they're understanding what they're meaning, right? The place I will be in when I reach my paradise body. the Bodhisattva is Arya, it implies that that Bodhisattva won't answer the question in that way. They won't say, I am creating my Buddha paradise. They might say, I'm planting seeds to create my Buddha paradise. And it would be more accurate so that whoever hears it would understand that they at least knew what they were setting about to do. Then a third way that Buddha wants us to know they would not be speaking truly is that either way, Bodhisattva who's not Arya or Bodhisattva who is Arya, and someone who's not Arya is hearing them, though the one hearing them is misunderstanding their words. So maybe the Bodhisattva is very clear in their own mind of what they mean by, I am creating my Buddha paradise, meaning I'm planting the seeds in my mind, in my meditation, for those seeds to ripen, me as Buddha in my Buddha paradise emanating. And that would be said correctly from that being's mind, but someone not understanding emptiness and dependent origination clearly is going to think that they can imagine it into being. They're just sitting in meditation, creating their Buddha paradise, right? We're thinking they must be like drawing in their mind, drawing the blueprints that they'll then sit down and physically draw and hand to the construction company. Or they must be just imagining what it's going to be like there, right? We're hearing it in a self-existent way. Like there's a paradise they need to create. They better plant the trees now because it takes a long time for those beautiful trees to grow, right? We're hearing it wrongly, implies Lord Buddha in this part of the sutra. So does that mean we can't create our Buddha paradise? No. Does it mean we shouldn't even imagine what it's going to be like? No. But we understand that where it comes from will be our mind taking information, forced to organize it as, whoa, paradise. And it will be unique to each being who reaches that state of mind. So everybody's Buddha paradise is unique to them. And yet when we hear Buddha paradise, I don't know about you, but like for a long time, I thought, it was up there somewhere, like heaven is up there somewhere. And you must have to leave here to go there. But we're learning more and more how, that's a misunderstanding. Your Buddha paradise will be wherever it is. It's going to come out wrong. Wherever it is you are, when your mind ripens, you as Buddha, you in Buddha paradise, it will be there. And you will have your paradise body, and then it will emanate. So to explain all this, or to help us have a more complete drachi, Geshe Michael went to the Uttara Tantra teachings by one of the teachings that Lord Maitreya gave to us Sangha. They're not a Tantra. They're about Buddhas and how we reach it. It's a beautiful teaching. If you haven't received it, it's something to ask for sometime. Oh. Okay, let me share screen. Get everybody. There. All right. So Geshe Michael taught us about this thing called Dakpe Shingam in Tibetan. It's contracted to Dakshing. It means the pure realm, sometimes called the pure field or the pure land. There's a whole sect of Buddhism from I'm not sure where that's called the Pure Land School. Dakshing. It's the Buddhist term for heaven. Paradise means heaven in other traditions. This paradise has other names. So our ignorant minds want to think, so there's this idea paradise, Dakshing, and then there are these specific Dakshings. And we think, oh, this one must be, Ganden must be over there, right? You get to it, you go up Highway 101 and you turn left at exit 3. And Tushita must be up there. You just keep going straight, you'll end up there. And Oakman must be, you turn right at exit 25, you know? And it's not like that. These are all paradises, and they're different levels of paradise, which seems contradictory. You know, paradise should be paradise, but there are different levels of paradise we're going to see. So Ganden, Tushita, Oakman. We're going to talk about Ganden and Oakman. These are coming out of the mind of the being who reaches them. So there's not just one of each. There's as many of each as there are fully enlightened beings. So to help us try to understand, Geshe Michael explains what Maitreya explained to Asanga about what Maitreya will do to manifest the fourth wheel turning Buddha on our earth. So in Sutra, Maitreya is a very high level bodhisattva, not yet omniscient. So there will be a day, a moment, where that great bodhisattva reaches the final moment of his samsara. The final moment of still having the remnant seeds of having seen things as self-existent. Those seeds can't ripen. That being doesn't have obvious suffering. That being does not have suffering of change anymore. But apparently they still have some version of pervasive suffering, aging, illness, death. So the great Bodhisattva Maitreya will reach his final moment before he becomes totally enlightened. And at that time, he will be staying in Ganden. Again, I hear my mind say it, and I think, oh, he's been in Ganden. It was a place, he got there. But what it's trying to say is his level of projections are projecting this pure land called Ganden, which means highest heaven of bliss. So it's a place of great, great pleasure. And yet he still has seeds for samsara. So it starts this long debate, is Ganden still in samsara or not? And you never quite get an answer to that debate. So he's in his final moment. He's been in Ganden for a while. He's still there. And then he leaves an emanation there in Ganden. And he makes manifest his Dharmakaya in Oakman. So in Ganden, he goes into deep meditation. His mind manifests in Oakman, meaning the mind purity reaching his Dharmakaya is now in Oakman, the heaven below none. So something happens in that final meditation where that being's Dharmakaya, direct experience of Dharmakaya arises. Did they have the emptiness of their mind before that? Yes, we all have a mind and they're empty. We just heard it about arhats. But to experience directly the emptiness of our mind is to make manifest our Dharmakaya. To stay there is to make manifest the Dharmakaya, right? We can touch into it, but not be able to stay. They say you have to say he makes manifest his Dharmakaya. You can't say he develops it or he grows it or it comes about, because those all imply that it starts little and grows to full, which then means it would have to get little and go away. The Dharmakaya doesn't grow. It, right, blinks into being, blinks into his direct experience, complete, because the Dharmakaya is the emptiness of the other three bodies, other three aspects of that being who has just become Buddha. So upon reaching Oakman, what that means is you have just reached the direct experience of Dharmakaya as your identity, and it's now there. The awareness of it is now there always. I hope I said that right. And then he enters his mother's womb. He makes manifest the illusion. He mayas, they say. Here's the word maya. It means illusion. It's a Sanskrit. So it's odd. He just reached his total enlightenment, made manifest his Dharmakaya in Oakman. That means reaching the state where he's perceiving appearing reality and the Dharmakaya, his own Dharmakaya, the emptiness of his mind and all existing things simultaneously. And then he sends himself into a womb. Like, why in the world would you do that? Once in the womb, right? He's being made into a little human baby who's gonna pop out, and he's gonna do the other 11 deeds of a Buddha. Why does he need to do that? He doesn't need to do it. He does it because his compassion makes him want to teach other beings how to do it. He could show up on the lotus flower, in the lake, fully enlightened being just there. And some people would say, oh, that's not possible. It's all a magic trick. I'm not going to believe. Other people will go, wow, he must be magical. He appeared with a miracle. And then he teaches us, everything you've ever done is everything that ever happens to you as a result of what you've done. So you can't blame anybody. And we'll start to doubt, and we'll want him to show another miracle to prove himself. Yeah. So it's like, it's not really so helpful to just show up as a fully enlightened being, because people can't relate. So instead, the Buddha of our world shows up as a very privileged being who gets dissatisfied even with their privilege, ditches the home life, goes on a spiritual path that they show themselves as ineffective, finds a spiritual path that does work, reaches the direct perception of ultimate reality, which proves to themselves that it does work, and then does the remaining deeds, the 6 perfectionizers, in order to reach that point where you sit down at the base of the tree and say, I'm not getting up until I'm fully enlightened. So then when that being leaves the tree and goes out to teach, right, you can say, I grew up like this, I had these experiences, right? I made all the mistakes. I understand what you're going through. Please let me help you. Let me guide you. Let me show you. We can relate to a teacher better who says, yeah, I've made that mistake myself, than to someone that we say, oh, I'm feeling like this. And they just like, I can't understand that. I've never been there. Right. So it's helpful to be a Buddha in a world that has had those experiences of the beings in that world, so we can relate to them. But technically, that being has reached their enlightenment before they manifested that body in which it looks like they're reaching their enlightenment. Do you see how difficult it is to quite get that? So Geshe-la said, there's an easier way to understand this. And this is your homework question, right? All of that was explanation, and this one's supposed to make it easier. I'm not sure it does. So he says, several things happen all at once in the first moment of our total enlightenment. Number one, not meaning first, because these happen all at once. We achieve our Oakman paradise. The seeds that we've planted are so pure, all of them, that they're ripening as this heaven below none. Greatest beauty, greatest pleasure, greatest everything. We have to be somewhere. We will be somewhere. Coming out of our own mind, there'll be a self in a place. And that place will be Oakman, and in it will be unique to you. Not meaning you'll be the only one there. It will be your projection and nothing but. Forced by the merit that has been made along our path. So what merit makes the causes for our Oakman paradise? We would want to know, because we would want to be making them. And it's called Shingta Jorwa. I didn't write it down. I should add it. Where should I put it in here? It's Tibetan Shingta Jorwa. It means Pure Land practice. And again, there are whole schools that do Pure Land practice as their whole practice. Here, it's not meaning those rituals and prayers. The Shingta Jorwa is doing specific practices to plant the seeds in our mind that will grow into the ripening of the Buddha, our own Buddha paradise when we get there. So there's two of them. One is to keep your space neat and clean. So we learned when we learned the meditation preliminaries to clean the space every day. Well, I just cleaned it yesterday. It looks fine, but clean it again. Keep your space neat and clean as a Pure Land practice. Geshe-la said, have your place be as if you're expecting a really important guest at any moment. What would your living room look like if you had His Holiness the Dalai Lama coming for lunch? The second important practice is help a sacred place be clean and beautiful. So some people love to keep stupas beautiful. Others like altars, others like, the sacred caves that yogis have meditated in. Dharma centers are a more readily available place to plant our seeds for our Pure Land, is to help a Dharma center be clean and beautiful. So, we have Diamond Mountain now for those of us closer by, where before a program, they say, we need volunteers to help. And you go and help clean the cabins and make them ready and beautiful for the participants. You clean up the grounds, you clean up the temple. And then while the participants are there, who are just trashing the place, you clean it up again and again and again. All the while you're thinking, looks like I'm picking up after all those slob Dharma students, but in fact, I'm creating my Pure Land as you clean the bathroom for the 100th time. The keeping the place clean and beautiful is maybe stronger seeds than actually attending the teaching. And because of the merit that you're getting, you will get the wisdom of the teaching even without hearing the words by serving the Dharma center. It's hard to understand, but it's the seeds for our Pure Land, even though the place maybe doesn't look like such a Pure Land. Okay. So we're back to talking about all the things that happen when you reach your enlightenment. You achieve your Okmen, meaning Okmen arises out of your seeds. Second, you are directly perceiving the totality of knowable things. Meaning all deceptive reality in all times. Appearances, all appearances. Do you remember early in the ACI study, we had that chart, all knowable things, and they were divided into changing things and unchanging things. And then that was divided into this kind of changing thing, that kind. And then, there's a reason why we were taught that in that way. It seemed like it was for the purpose of learning from class. But we were getting seeds for this perceiving all knowable things directly someday. And those seeds have been growing. Third thing that's happening is you have stopped the third suffering. The pervasive suffering has now been eliminated from your mind stream. Suffering and suffering of change were eliminated on your 8th level bodhisattva. But now even pervasive suffering from the remnants is gone. 4th, you bring forth your Dharmakaya, meaning at the same time that we're perceiving all existing things, we are perceiving the empty nature of all existing things, of which our self, our mind, is one. So, right, this is all happening at the same time. We are now perceiving emptiness directly and appearing reality directly simultaneously. Only a fully enlightened being mind can do that. It's what we mean by omniscience. And we become awakened to all dharmas, meaning uh, meaning this awareness of appearing reality and empty nature simultaneously. So it sounded like that's what I meant by the Dharmakaya manifesting. But what the Dharmakaya experiences, I don't know if I can really say that accurately, is the appearing nature and the empty nature of all things, meaning we know exactly where everything comes from. Our own and others. And our body, what we perceive as our body, what we project as our body, becomes the enjoyment body, the paradise body. So the body that we were projecting before had some kind of being made up of flesh and blood and bone. When we reach this level, the body we project is made of winds and mind that is more subtle than light. They call it the rainbow body. The rainbow body is part of the projection. Buddha me and Buddha paradise, perceiving all existing things and the emptiness of all existing things, including myself simultaneously. Now, the body that we project is rainbow body. Okay. And with that, we achieve the causes for what will become our emanations. Geshe-la explained it as we achieve the ability to emanate. But that implies that you can be sitting in your Buddha paradise and you have the ability to emanate, but you just choose not to do it right now. And I don't think it's like that at all. That by way of having the ability to emanate, the compassion through which you reached your Buddhahood ripens as emanating, as being what every being needs to give up or take up in order for them to stop their suffering ultimately. Do those other beings that your emanations are appearing to necessarily know that what they're interacting with is an emanation of a Buddha? No. How frustrating would that be? You know, you reach your Buddha paradise, you send forth your emanations, you know, to everybody, and nobody sees you. You know, they spit on you, they step on you, they like, but what it is to be a Buddha emanation is just no sense of anything but, you know, being the appearance of Buddha's love for that being. And whatever it takes, however long it takes, I'll be here for them. It's hard to imagine again. Our love, our compassion forces us, not force, we want to do it, appears as these emanations. We need to have our paradise body before it can emanate. So there is this fraction of an instant where all these other things have happened simultaneously, and then whoop, out comes the emanations, right? Or the ability to emanate, as Geshe Michael said. Then one of those emanations is the one that goes into the suitable mother's womb to start the process of demonstrating those other 11 deeds. So it's called the 12 deeds of a Buddha, what they do in the world that they go to in order to help everybody reach Buddhahood as well. The first one is to put themselves into the womb of a suitable mom. And then the rest is that list that is taught in Uttara Tantra in greater depth of becoming dissatisfied, leaving the home life, finding a spiritual path that doesn't work, finding a spiritual path that does work, following it, reaching the direct perception of emptiness, going through the path of habituation, becoming fully enlightened, etc. All of that is done in order to gather connections with the beings of that world that you've manifested into in order to teach them. So those 12 deeds of a Buddha are all about teaching. Geshe said there are many worlds where there are living beings who are not ripe for the Mahayana. There are worlds where beings are not ripe for the Vajrayana, the diamond way. It's extremely rare to live in a world, right, to project a world where both the Mahayana and the Vajrayana are taught, are available. It's a sign of our goodness, our merit. And it's a little hard to hear because we think, I'm not that good. But here you are in a particular school of Buddhism that has the foundation courses so clearly laid out. The monastic training that was not open to the public until Geshe Michael shared it in this way. And building the foundation for the higher teachings that end up being taught with the same kind of depth and consistency and documentation from scripture. It's extraordinary. So we have some more rejoiceables there, right? To keep that goodness going. It's kind of hard to see goodness in our world right now. So the more rejoicing we can do in the goodness we do know we have is how we can shift those seeds. Oh, good timing. Let's take a break. I'm going to stop the share and pause the recording. Okay, so your homework's going to ask you, why doesn't the truth of suffering exist in a Buddha paradise? If we're thinking that Oakman is just another place where we will go to reach our enlightenment, then why isn't it still the truth of suffering? Like, if we are still a suffering being and we have to be in Oakman to reach our enlightenment, doesn't it have to be a place still in samsara? For me, the suffering being, to be there as the place where I reach my enlightenment. And when we're thinking still self-existently, it's like, yeah, it would have to be still a place in samsara for a still samsaric being to be there, even to project it. Like if you have to go there to reach your enlightenment there. So let's think it through. A suffering place can only be made by having karma ripening and the mental afflictions that ripening instigates. The main one being our ignorance. And by ignorance, we mean this misunderstanding, not knowing how everything that we experience is only results of our own past deeds, done out of ignorance of how everything is only results of our own past deeds, done out of ignorance of how everything we experience is results of our own past deeds done. I can't ever stop saying it. There's no first moment. So if we just get rid of that old karma and stop our current mental afflictions, that's all we have to do to be in paradise right now. You don't have to go anywhere. It will be this shift in the seeds in your mind, in your heart. And when the last mistaken seed ripens, and then the last remnant from those mistaken seeds is fully destroyed, the next instant of projections is all pure merit. So we've been burning off our karma seeds and planting merit seeds since our direct perception of emptiness, maybe 17 lifetimes ago, whenever it was that we had it. And eventually, there's going to be no more karma seeds. Our mind's going to be full of merit seeds. Still imprints, but imprints made under the influence of our wisdom and love. So when there's nothing left of seeds for suffering, the merit seeds are ripening. Every experience will be beauty, love, pleasure, helpful, kind, right? I mean, take the words that themselves have no meaning, but we've attached goodness meaning to them and use them, but then add the this or something better, because it's going to be way better than anything we can describe as a still samsaric being. And it will come out of our seeds ripening, and there's no Oakman other than that. So there cannot be suffering in Oakman, because what Oakman is the ripening place where you project yourself when you have no more seeds for suffering or mental afflictions, right? It feels like a circular argument, but it's not. So we already heard what two causes bring our Buddha paradise. Keep your space clean, help keep a Dharma center beautiful. But there's two other ways. two practices that help us plant these merit seeds, even as our old karma seeds are ripening. So we can be in the most exquisite, beautiful place on earth and still have suffering. Our good karma would be projecting that exquisite Caribbean beach vacation. Our ignorance means that beautiful Caribbean beach vacation is going to come to an end. Or it's so beautiful, but I get bit by mosquitoes. Or, right, life. So it's not about the beauty of the place. It's not about the amount of pleasure in the place. It's about the seeds that have been planted that are called merit instead of karma. The difference being a merit seed is a seed planted understanding clearly the no self nature me, the no self nature other, the no self nature of the experience I'm having, which means the no self nature of the reaction that I'm having, which means I can choose a different response in the face of this unpleasantness and pleasantness. Right? It's not just unpleasantness that we have to work with. We get mental afflictions related to pleasant things as well. So how do we bring about our Buddha paradise is like saying, how do we plant enough merit to ripen as our Buddha paradise? And there are these two important concepts. Like here's the method, Munlam and Gewa. These are Tibetan words. Munlam means prayer. Gewa means virtue, good deeds. It sounds like, oh, Buddha, please bless me with paradise. Oh, Buddha, please bless me with paradise. That's not what prayer means here. Prayer means establishing our mission statement. We make this very clear mission statement. I'm going to reach my total enlightenment. So Buddha Shakyamuni's mission statement before he was Buddha Shakyamuni. I'm going to reach my total enlightenment on planet Earth. I'm going to teach people the basics and Diamond Way so that they can reach their total enlightenment too. In whatever lifetime that he established his mission statement, he then followed up with doing the goodness deeds that planted the seeds imbued by his mission statement, so that every little thing he did became causes for his total Buddhahood. Remember that from whatever course we learned about the benefits of bodhicitta? So at some point, we establish our bodhicitta as our mission statement. And then from that, we carry out the goodnesses that we need to see ourselves doing those deeds that plant the seeds that, because of our mission statement, are directed towards the ripening of our Buddha paradise, whenever that's going to be. What kinds of deeds? The six perfections. So even before we've seen emptiness directly, we can establish our mission statement, and we can use the six perfections as guidelines for our new choices of behavior. And we can start making these goodness seeds. Technically, they won't be merit seeds until we've seen emptiness directly, but they're goodness seeds that will take us to the direct perception of emptiness. And then we've already gotten good at them. We continue doing them. now with our mind imbued with our bodhicitta, both bodhicittas, I want to be Buddha for the sake of everybody, and the bodhicitta that is our cessation that comes about from our direct perception of emptiness. Yeah. And then we are planting the seeds of merit. We are doing our gewa, accumulating gewa, propelled by our mission statement, our munlo. Those are the two specific things that create the seeds for Buddha paradise. But that means they're also contributing to the Buddha you in Buddha paradise, right? You're not going to make a Buddha paradise without the enlightened being you in it. So you can't really say this is what you do to reach your paradise. This is what you do to reach your Buddhahood. It's not any different than what we've been studying so far. It's just getting more clear about why to be clear in our mission statement, our bodhicitta, and why to try to hold it in mind as we're doing our kindnesses, even before we think we're on our way to our Buddhahood, which you are, whether you know it or not. So the obstacles to our Buddha me and Buddha paradise is our karma and mental afflictions. The only way to stop replanting karma and mental afflictions is to have the direct perception of emptiness. Right? We're not replanting them as strongly as we did before once we've heard the pen thing, but we are still replanting belief in self-existent me, self-existent other, self-existent experience. Direct perception of emptiness changes that because now we don't believe it. We see things the same old way, but we don't believe it. So now our seeds are planted with that don't believe. And that's going to go on to finally being seeds that ripen as don't even see, experience, think things are self-existent anymore. And then we can really crank up our gewa, our merit seed making. We're trying to know the empty, the no self nature of the three spheres of our experience so well that we can have some awareness of every moment's vast potentiality as we're in it. Ordinarily, by the time something has ripened, it's dry cement. We can't change it. All we can change is our response to it so that we don't replant unpleasant, so that we share something pleasant, so we can replant pleasant that will still just wear out, but at least it's pleasant. Our karma's goodness can grow even before we're calling it merit, to the point where we are keenly aware of the potentiality of things as they ripen. Looks like unpleasant. I understand that it's not unpleasant from its own side, so it is unpleasant. And so I don't want to respond in a way that perpetuates unpleasantness for anybody. It could be different. That doesn't make it different, but it makes the seeds we plant in response to it very different. Okay. Slowly, slowly. we will stop replanting our mental afflictions. And so stop replanting the karma that creates suffering. And they say if a Arya doesn't do anything different, then 17 lifetimes, and they'll have burnt off all their seeds. And of course, an Arya Bodhisattva is in a hurry. So they're going to work with their seeds to burn them off faster. But technically, once you've seen emptiness directly, you don't have to do anything more different because you're ripening, burning off, not replanting. You can just let that go. Or we can say, well, does that mean, like, if I've been the yelling boss for lifetimes and I have 10,000 seeds for yelling boss, does that mean I have to go through 50,000 yelling bosses in order to burn off all my yelling boss seeds? It's like, isn't there a faster way? Isn't there a way that I can damage those seeds before they ripen? Like, it's a good question. We're not doomed to experience every stupid thing that we did. There is the practice of the 4 powers. And remember when we were studying karma class, that the 4 powers teachings didn't come up in karma class. It felt to me like we needed it. But here it comes in Diamond Cutter's Sutra class, because it's those 4 powers really don't do much unless we understand the emptiness, right, of the 3 spheres that we are 4 powering about, and the emptiness of the 4 powers themselves. So I realize now how skillful it was that Geshe Michael would have left us thinking about karma, and hoping we came to the conclusion. It's like, oh my gosh, I have all these terrible seeds. Do I have to experience every single one to burn it off? And then we get Diamond Cutter Sutra and we get more confused. And then at least in this part of Diamond Cutter's Sutra, it's like, now you've asked the right question. Can't I do something to damage those seeds before they ripen on me? And if there is a way, would you do it? I hope so, right? You don't need to keep hitting yourself on the hammer, hitting the hammer on your toe in order to stop samsara. Just burn off the seeds. How do we burn off the seeds? Experience them and they're done. Or apply the 4 powers of purification. So we've had these before, but I don't know that we've had them in the Tibetan. The 4 powers of purification teaching comes from a Buddha Sutra. So this is not the Tibetan Mahayanists making stuff up. There's a Buddha Sutra called the Sutra of the 4 Dharmas, meaning the Sutra of the 4 Practices, where Lord Buddha taught this. You don't have to experience everything to burn it off. We can damage those seeds. How do we do it? It takes these 4 steps, clearly, intentionally applied. So the 4 steps are Denki Top, Nampar Sunjimpe Top. Top means power. Nyepa Le Larn Dope Top. There's that prenasal between the R and the D. Nyempo Kuntu Jupe Top. Denki Top means the foundation, the basis power. So this teaching gives our refuge and bodhicitta as our first step in our purification practice. It means go back and explain to yourself why it is the case that the behavior I did has planted seeds in my mind that will ripen as something unpleasant. And Buddha taught how that isn't necessary, how it's driven by misunderstanding. And if we can stop the misunderstanding, we can stop replanting the seeds of suffering, not just for myself, but everyone. And so I want to follow the instructions of this teacher that pointed out to me that I can do that. I can stop my own and everyone's suffering. So however your refuge, right, grows in your heart, you explain it to yourself. So your refuge, your foundation force isn't just, I go for refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. It's not strong enough. We want to talk through what we understand about seeds planted, seeds ripening. And so I'm perpetuating suffering for myself and others. So then add the component of your bodhicitta. It's true for me. It's true for everybody. So when I've planted and ripened and replanted an unpleasant seed, what I've replanted is gonna hurt everybody. And I don't want to do it anymore. I regret it, right? A strong refuge foundation will lead to regret. Other teachings on the four powers says you need to generate your regret first, because if there's no regret, why are we reestablishing our foundation in emptiness and karma and bodhicitta for something that we don't really believe we did wrong, right? We won't, even if we kind of do our four powers, it won't impact the seed very much. So you'll find once you know the four powers, on any given instant of using them, right? The order that you do them in, you can vary according to your circumstance. But they all four need to happen in this really clear way. So Denkito, the foundation force, is our refuge in bodhicitta, understanding karma and emptiness so well that we see, I had this prayer to stop the suffering of the world, and I did that thing that just perpetuated the suffering of the world. And doggone it anyway. Thank you, Buddha, for teaching me, don't give up on me. And then our regret is already there. So the next one is Nampar Sunjimpe Tok. Sunjimpe means to rip out from our heart. And so this power of regret isn't just oh man, I made a bad seed. It's this, oh man, I made a bad seed. It's going to come back bigger. And oh my gosh, can't I get it? Like you want to get in there and like, Nampar Sunjimpe Tok, the power of our regret. When we learned it before, there was that story of the three hot, tired guys that go into the bar, and they're in a rush. And so they just say, we'll have that. The barkeep grabs it, the 3 glasses, salud, down the hatch. A few instances later, the one guy seizes and drops over dead. A few instances later, the second guy seizes and drops over dead. The third guy has regret. Right? That's what we mean by regret. It's not, I'm bad, I'm a lousy person, I wish I wasn't in a hurry. It's like, holy shit, right? Drops over dead. So our regret is this sense of becoming aware that when I yelled back, I planted a seed that just perpetuated the whole thing. And we want this feeling in our heart that's just like, blah, regret. His Holiness calls it the what does he call it? The healthy regret of an educated Buddhist. But we want the feeling. I want that out of me. Okay. Nampar Sun Jinpei Top. So you take a little bit of time to get that sense of revulsion, even. Buddha said the emotion of regret is the only unpleasant emotion that's a virtue. Because regret leaves us feeling a little icky and stained, right? We don't want to admit that we did something that hurt somebody. So it's hard to regret, really. But it's a virtue, like something unpleasant that's a virtue. Eventually, it's not unpleasant at all. It really is a healthy state of mind. And one of the ways that we break the tenacity of our belief in self-existence is to have this healthy sense of regret behind the scenes in everything that we do as a non-Arya. It's kind of an interesting state of mind. It's like, I know I can't see things accurately. So the way I'm seeing it now, I just kind of regret that I can't see it accurately. And that's included in the seed. And that means our belief in self-existence is a little bit chipped away at in that seed being planted, which will help us go on to seeing directly that there's no such thing as those self-existent things. Nampar Sun Jinpei To. Foundation, regret. The next one here, Nyepa Le Lang Dok Pe To. It's the power of restraint. So without restraining ourselves from replanting that seed, no amount of regret or refuge in karma and emptiness and bodhicitta will help us stop perpetuating our samsara, right? If we say, oh, I regret that seed, I'm going to damage it, but I let myself put it right back in again, then what does that say to our mind about our other practices of determining that I don't want that seed inside me? Like there's a part of us that's hearing, and not really, because we allowed ourselves to replant the same seed or similar seed as the one we were saying, I want out of me, this is disgusting, I don't want to do it. And then 10 days later, you're putting it back in again. So the power of restraint is really necessary. And yet the power of restraint is probably the hardest one to do. And it seems like we have to say, you know, I will never yell back at somebody who's yelling at me. I will never yell at anybody who's doing something that seems to be upsetting me. That's how I rip out all my being yelled at seeds, is I refuse to yell. But if we sit down to do a 4 powers on being yelled at and say, I will never yell again, and then we yell at somebody, then we've just fouled up that whole 4 powers. It negates it. So the teachers say, make your power of restraint, establish it as something that you can actually achieve, even if it's like totally puny. So maybe you're doing your 4 powers and you say, I'm going to not yell at anybody for the period of time that I'm finishing up my practice on my cushion. And then you finish up your practice on the cushion without yelling at anybody. Probably we can do that. And then even if we get off our cushion and go yell at somebody, we've planted new yelling seeds, but we haven't fouled up that session of 4 powers because we kept our power of restraint that we said we were going to keep. Now, you know, how strong is that 4 powers? Because our power of restraint was so puny, but you just planted seeds for a successful power of restraint. Next time, say, all of my meditation session and the first 5 minutes of being amongst my people. And then do it and make a note. Okay, 5 minutes is up. I did it. Yay. We being very, very specific in our power of restraint and seeing ourselves achieve it has the power of this purification practice getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So these 4 powers are built into our meditation preliminaries, as you are aware, but they can be done, you know, on the fly. Once we know them well, you know, if you're in the midst of, you know, oh man, I'm planting negative seeds left and right, time out. Sorry, everybody, I've got to go to the bathroom. Okay? Whether you have to go, doesn't matter. You do have to go to the bathroom. Sit in the stall and think through your seeds. Do a 4 powers right there and then. It doesn't take 5 minutes when you have the system worked out. Get your mental state readjusted with the 4 powers, and then go back and try again. And maybe, right, you do your power of restraint, the time it takes to get from the bathroom back to the meeting room. Okay, did it. Let's try again, regroup. Right, so it's not just a practice that we do on the cushion. We can be doing it throughout the day. The last one that must be included is Nyempo Kuntu Chupe Top. It means the force of the antidote. Applying something intentionally planted to negate the seed that's in there. So the seed's already in there, we're trying to damage it. Our regret built with our refuge in bodhicitta, like cracks the seed. Our antidote pulls it apart. The antidote needs to be the opposite of the seed. The opposite of every mental affliction seed is emptiness. It's no self nature. Awareness of a thing's no self nature is the opposite of it having a self nature, and it having a self nature is, our belief in it having a self nature is why we react badly in the first place. And so it's included in the mental affliction seeds that are planted is the belief in things is self natures. So emptiness, studying emptiness, thinking about emptiness, meditating on emptiness is the antidote force for everything. And it's helpful to also do a more conventional opposite. So when we learn the 4 powers in greater depth, there's this list of 6 different antidote forces that we can choose from. And then in addition to that list is do the opposite. You know, if being yelled at makes us feel disrespected, do the opposite isn't just don't yell. Doing the opposite would be, where is it that somebody's feeling, you know, down or disrespected or not recognized, and who can I recognize? Who can I show some respect for so that my seeds of getting yelled at that make me feel disrespected can be like blown up? We want the opposite. But not just the opposite of the behavior, the opposite of the mental affliction underneath the behavior. in order to really crack the seed. So when we have all four of these powers planted, the series of seeds from that event that we're wanting to damage so they can't ripen into a new suffering event, those seeds will be damaged. Will they be completely gone out of us? Probably not. But they will be damaged such that they cannot get over the threshold to a manifestation, to an experience. How many times do we need to do that for our yelling? Will just 4 powers that we really don't ever yell at anybody be enough to never get yelled at again? Maybe. If we say, I did the 4 powers, I did them all, and I'm still getting yelled at, Sarani, what's up with this? I would say, look underneath at the mental affliction underneath, how the yelling is making you feel. And very likely you'll find that you're still making somebody else feel that way, but in some other way than yelling. And work at that level with your 4 powers and see what happens. Okay. So the sutra, we went from, hey, Bodhisattva, what you doing? I'm making my Buddha paradise. No, you're not. You know, that's not really what he said. That Bodhisattva has not spoken truly. To how do we get rid of our mental afflictions? Do you see the connection? The way we make our Buddha paradise is get rid of our mental afflictions and the karma that instigates them. And then Buddha says in the sutra, like we've just got this glimpse. We can clear out all the seeds for all suffering. How? By understanding emptiness, not yelling back, right? And then Buddha says, oh, Subhuti, any son or daughter of noble family who takes up a sutra like this, or who holds it or reads it or comprehends it fully will suffer. They will suffer intensely. It's like, wait a minute, we're learning to stop our suffering by stop our karma and mental afflictions. And now Buddha says, study emptiness and you're going to suffer more. What's up with that? He goes on to describe, why do I say that? Because, O Subhuti, such beings are purifying non-virtuous karma from the entire string of their previous lives, karma that would have taken them to the 3 lower realms. As they purify this karma, it causes them to suffer here in this life. As such, they will succeed in cleaning away the karma of those non-virtuous deeds of their previous lifetimes, and they will as well achieve the enlightenment of a Buddha. So he's saying that studying emptiness is such a good deed that it stirs the pot of our selfishness and brings those ugly seeds to the surface sooner than they otherwise would have ripened. If left inside there, and one of them ripens at the moment of death, hell realm, hungry ghost, animal realm, a realm of constant suffering instead of just obvious suffering now and then, suffering of change more often, pervasive suffering that we're not really even aware of, but we have. Don't we want that stuff out of us? It's like everything that goes wrong, we can say, oh, better than a lifetime in a hell realm. Because if left to its own devices, that's what that seed of unpleasantness would ripen as. And it's hard, but it's insight into the perfection of patience. The perfection of patience was about, in the face of something unpleasant, we understand so clearly where it's really coming from that we don't blame the other and we refuse to be unkind to the other. And when we understand well, will we even be so actively avoiding unpleasantness if, by experiencing an unpleasantness and not responding unkindly to it, we burn it off forever? The practice of patience taken deeper is no longer even perceiving what we would have called unpleasant as something to avoid. It's still unpleasant, but we don't need to avoid it. We burn it off. And that's dangerous. You don't teach that to somebody new. So explain this clearly, Kongli, to your sister. That does not mean if you're in a bad relationship and somebody's hurting you and abusing you, this does not mean that Buddha said, just take it on gladly. The ramification of wisdom is that we'll reach a point where we will take it on gladly, but not because Buddha said so, but because we understand where it's coming from and it's the opportunity to burn off. Until we're at that level of understanding, we should remove ourselves from that situation. We should recognize that the person who's doing the hurting is making terrible seeds for themselves. And we don't want them to continue making seeds, so we're out of here. We still understand that we refuse to hurt them to get away from them. But now it hurts somebody to leave a relationship. Yeah, not that kind of hurt, right? You're not going to hit them over the head with a frying pan in order to get away. I understand. So this teaching does not mean let yourself continue to be hurt or abused. It means when unpleasant things happen, and we've been studying the path, those unpleasant things are ripening seeds that otherwise would have been so much worse than what I'm experiencing now. So our sense of, oh no, this is happening to me, our whine factor will decrease a lot. So I have a story. Sumati, we had just traded our 2 cars in on 1 car. It was a used, new to us, but 2-year-old Subaru. And he's out doing his errands and he stops at the recycle lot to put in our, cardboard and tin and so forth. And it's a dirt lot. And by the time he's dumped our recycles, he comes back and he's got a flat tire on his new car. And, he's going, meh, meh. And he calls the repair person and Raul comes, he takes the tire off, replaces it with the little donut spare, and he's examining the tire and he goes, oh, here's what caused the flat. And he pulls out this metal cross, a Christian cross, like off somebody's necklace. And somehow that metal cross had just penetrated through a tire. I don't see how this is possible. But Raul pulls it out and he goes, look, Mr. Stumpf, this is a sign that you were just protected from something way worse, and Sumati, like it kicks in, his wisdom kicks in and he goes, oh man, quit your complaining about the flat tire. I probably would have gotten into some terrible accident. or caused it for somebody else, or who knows what. And the whole experience shifted from something unpleasant to something pleasant, still flat tire, and pain in the butt to get it fixed. So same kind of idea. It's the circumstance doesn't change, but our reaction to a circumstance can change dramatically, and that plants different seeds. Right? So I hope we're getting the idea. Seed planting is the critical piece. Seed planting, which we do by way of our response to the experience that we have. So we're trying to get off automatic pilot, which means we react to those self-existent others doing self-existent things. And instead, we respond with seed planting for everybody's Buddha paradise. Which means we choose kindness instead of selfishness. Right? Always the bottom line. Choose to be kind at whatever level you can be kind in the circumstance that you're in. Yeah. All right. That completes our class 8. So we have 9 and 10 next week, and then we have review class. So technically review class would happen on the Friday. Oh, for us, Friday the 11th. No, that's okay. Morning for me, afternoon for you. The Lamrim doesn't start till Friday night with Lama Chupa. So I'm going to vote that let's go ahead and have our review class on the 11th so that we can get this course finished, and then you can be working on it. And we'll figure out when to do the Lung of the Diamond Cutter Sutra, probably either late October before I go away, or December, right? So I will still owe you the Lung of the Diamond Cutter Sutra. But let's do the review course on the 11th, which means for those of you who haven't studied with me, the review course is taught to me by you. And we assign the questions from the final exam, and you get to teach them to the group so that the group sees you as the teacher for that period of time. You see yourself as the teacher for that period of time, all those great seeds. So that means on the 10th class, I'll assign those questions to anybody who wants to play, and you are not obligated. And then to offer the question, you are welcome to just read the answer key, or you are welcome to actually give a little teaching on it, as long as it doesn't take too long, right? Because we've got 25 questions to do. So I let you know now so that you can work with the mental affliction of egads. I can't teach, but you can. So, okay. So remember that person that we wanted to be able to help? We've learned a lot that we will use sooner or later to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And then carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with wisdom, filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for doing your papers.